Of the board. That's always an exciting time. Thank you to Chris for your past leadership, and Lynn, we're looking forward to your leadership. We're looking forward to the results of the reauthorization of the ESEA, as we refer to as No Child Left Untested. It has bipartisan support in the House, and now it's in the Senate, so it's supposed to be, we thought the news was going to come out today, but I haven't heard so far. In your Educator magazine this time, there's an interesting article on the superintendent shuffle. There's a concerning article on the living wage for educators. Like, they're talking about that a lot of people can't afford houses, but like if you talk about how, like, I grew up with, my parents were both educators, they had a house, they had a, we took vacations, and we have a house, but like many other people struggle with that. So just a concerning article. And then there's a fun article on text messaging, how it's grown up. There's 6 little apps that you can do, but they left out the best one, and the best one is the Bitmojis. So if you have not experienced Bitmojis, you need to get on that, because that's super fun. Have a wonderful winter break, spending time with the ones you love, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. I know you represent all the teachers. CSEA. Besma? Here.
Well, on top of the Fed, on behalf of the FSD board, we want to wish you all a happy holiday and a rested 2 weeks off. So hopefully you'll have time to spend with your family and friends and celebrate. And then in addition to that, we're looking forward to our January 19th, Every Student Succeeding award ceremony. And so we will give you more information on that as we get closer to it. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Our break started around 2016 event, so it'll be our next item on the agenda is an information-only item. It's not something the board will be taking action on. It's just, we have called the Orange County Department of Ed Legal Counsel to do a presentation. We will follow with any public comments. So, welcome, Ron.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to be here in Fullerton. And I'm going to try to give you an overview of the law on Senate Bill 277. As you're aware, there's a lot of controversy about it, but I'm just going to try to give you an overview of what the law requires, and then I'll just open it up to questions at the end. So the main impact of Senate Bill 277 is to limit exemptions from immunizations to medical reasons only, effective January 1st, 2016, so just in a few weeks from now. So exemptions for religious beliefs and personal beliefs are no longer available beginning January 1st, 2016. So that's probably the most controversial aspect of the bill, and what has upset some people in the community, that they're no longer able to file those exemptions after January 1st. You may get some in the next few weeks prior to January 1st, but after that they will not be allowed. But they still kept the medical exemption. Senate Bill 277 provides additional flexibility for physicians to exempt a student from immunizations under certain circumstances, including but not limited to family medical history. So if the doctor does a family medical history and determines that there are special circumstances involved with this child, and that it's not considered safe for this child to be immunized, then the physician can issue a written statement, and that can be given to the school district to exempt the child. And so it's generally what we've advised school districts is when you receive these exemptions from the physician, that you would then just pretty much follow what the doctor has said. Now, some of them may be a complete exemption, some of them may be a delay in the schedule. There's a schedule that is recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics, but or pediatricians, but sometimes the doctors feel that they should slow it down or do less immunizations due to a child's medical condition. So the school districts may receive some of those, yes.
In your opinion, does the law allow for something that's minimal as a doctor simply saying, I believe it is in this child's best interest to not receive an immunization?
There should be more than that. It should be explain the medical reason why.
This is the seminal point to the whole reason we have you here for me.
Okay.
Can you get more deeply into why you believe it needs to say more than that?
Well, because the law, the way it's written, says that there should be a written statement by a licensed physician to the effect that the physical condition of the child is such, or medical circumstances relating to the child are such, that immunization is not considered safe, indicating the specific nature and probable duration of the medical condition or circumstances, including but not limited to family history, for which the physician does not recommend immunization. So that middle paragraph there, that second bullet on the slide, that's taken from the law. That's what the law requires the physician to do.
What are the ramifications to the school district if it accepts as adequate a statement such as I described to you?
Well, there's no specific penalties in the law. What you could have is an audit by the Department of Health or the County Health Department, and they may look at it and say this is not sufficient and you should not have accepted this exemption because it does not meet.
So the worst case scenario under current law would be an audit by a higher authority to say, no, you got that one wrong.
And then you'd have to go back to the physician and get a proper statement, and then you have to go through that whole process again.
Thank you.
So there's no form, so this kind of leads to what you're saying, there's no specific form, it's just a statement from the doctor. And the state may develop a form in the future, but as of now, they have not developed a form. So it's usually going to be in the form of a letter from the doctor, which has all the required information. And school districts are not required to verify the legitimacy of the medical exemption. Basically, we would take the word of the physician. We wouldn't necessarily go and question what the physician has said in that statement. So if the physician says, based on this child's family history, it's not safe for this child to be immunized, then we would just accept that.
What if it just says not in their best interest?
I don't think that meets the legal requirements. Because those, if we go back a couple of slides, that middle bullet point there, that's what the law requires that the physician do.
And how does a school district stand up against a medical doctor's opinion when they say not in the best interest of? Is your expectation that we actually go back to them and say you're not good enough, that we second guess their medical opinion?
Well, that's not really a medical opinion if they just say it's not in the best interest of the child.
Well, I mean, how do we demand immunization when a doctor has said to us it's not in the child's best interest?
That's a very good question, and I'm not sure how we would handle that. I would just say it doesn't meet the legal requirements, but I'm not sure. We'll have to raise that question and see how the health department's going to follow. That is a very good question.
That'll lead to the form, to when they go to filing, they go in and audit, they lead to the form, that's what
May not.
So I mentioned that parents can file a personal beliefs exemption prior to January 1st. And it'll be honored until that pupil meets the next grade span, which means the student enters kindergarten or grade 7. And then they would have to then be immunized. Or such as when they move from preschool to kindergarten or from 6th grade to 7th grade. Yes.
So from kindergarten, if they go ahead and get the exemption in for kindergarten, does that count all the way to 7th grade or in the first grade?
It would, if it's in kindergarten, it would count all the way to 6th grade. Preschool to kindergarten would be the other transition.
Is it through 6th grade?
Through 6th grade. So when they matriculate from 6th grade to 7th grade, then they would have to be immunized.
And then there's another jump 8th to 9th, right?
No,
No, it's just those two.
okay. And then college has
Other meningitis.
meningitis, yeah. I thought we would let him finish, and you might
Okay,
cover.
yeah, just a few more slides.
Yeah, what
I mean,
they're
I'll try to answer
asked.
the questions.
Sure.
But the one you asked, I'm afraid I don't have quite the answer, so we'll have to figure that one out. But if the role of the county health officer, I just thought I'd mention that, if there's a good cause to believe that a child has been exposed to a disease that's listed in the health and safety code, or their documentary proof of immunization is not available, that child could be temporarily excluded from school until the local health officer is satisfied that they meet the legal requirements.
That's not what you
of
say.
danger. So if, let's say, for example, there's another measles outbreak, the local health officer would then have the authority to remove children from school who haven't been immunized if they think that there is a risk of transmitting
Who is
disease.
the local health officer?
That would be the county health department.
And they did that in Huntington Beach.
They did that a few years back in Huntington
Recently.
Beach. Yeah.
Right.
So if somebody has a personal exemption, and the county health department comes in and does an audit and says child X,
I don't know, there's a break out.
Yes.
That would be, this
and
is,
if there's an outbreak,
if there's an outbreak, they can just come in.
they can say everybody that's under a personal exemption or even a medical exemption can be excluded from school temporarily.
Possibly, that would be up to their medical
And it
judgment to
hasn't been
decide.
vaccinated.
It's sort of like head lice, correct?
Yes, that would be up to the health officer to decide whether to exclude the child from school.
And anyone else.
And then the next slide talks about special education students. Senate Bill 277 does not exempt special education students, but it does say that they have access to special education and related services required by their IEPs while they're in the process of obtaining their vaccinations. And there's been some misunderstanding, I think, in the community on that particular issue. I'm not sure why, but there is no general immunization. I think it's because of that third bullet point, the language in the law, it says that they can access special education. So we have advised districts that they should enroll the students and then urge them to get vaccinated, but not exclude them. So it treats special ed students a little bit differently, but they're not totally exempt from the vaccination requirement. And then foster youth and homeless children who do not have immunization documentation, they should be enrolled immediately. And then they're not exempt either, but they're required to obtain the documentation or to be vaccinated after they're enrolled. So that's pretty much the formal presentation. So I'll just open it up to questions.
There is one public comment, so Kevin, would you like to go ahead and speak?
You're done with them?
That's his presentation. Yeah. And then I have a public comment, and then we open up the question.
May I ask the audience how many people intend or have interest in addressing this matter?
They should be filling out a public comment.
I understand, but my hope was, and I didn't realize I wasn't going to be running the meeting when this happened, my bad. Well, I guess we're just going to have to restrict it. If you have any questions, you're going to have to ask them.
Can we still give you a card? We didn't realize we would have to fill them out.
You can still fill out a card. Yeah, absolutely.
And when you
What are the cards
ask
out?
questions.
Are the cards out?
Correct. You may find that the same question you have, somebody else will bring up and answer when you give, so.
Good evening, board and board.
Good evening, Mr. Bass.
I just wanted to bring up a different point of view. I understand how divisive this law is. But my concern is that we're creating a potential battleground here on the board to address an issue that is law and not within our purview to change. We have the limitations as explained to us in this presentation. I believe the board has the ability and the right to decide on how they're going to receive the exemptions up through to the end of the year, if it even includes maybe some overtime for people to be here on campus to accept those exemptions. But my biggest concern is that we've created this environment in order to bring up the issue of how wrong this law is as perceived by a group of parents. And while I don't want to disagree with their perceptions, the issue is that we're not the forum. The forum is the legislative body of the state. I want to recommend the limitation of what we do here as we discuss the meeting, so that we don't start creating that polarization that goes for the parents who are worried about their child's health versus the parents who are worried about their personal freedoms and beliefs. We are consigned, we are obligated to follow the law. Where there is an opportunity to help, we should. The exemptions go through to the end of the year, we should make those opportunities. But beyond that, we shouldn't be party to or giving the platform in which we can start a grassroots movement. Really, this is just implementation of the law. Thank you.
Thank you. As a reminder, this is only an information item. There is no action by the board tonight on this item.
There's no action, although we can discuss it. I'm compelled, in light of the fact that this is part of my friend Kevin, I could not disagree more with that statement. It's an idyllic circumstance to discuss whether or not this should be enforced.
May I ask something before we start? Because I do want to clarify what the purpose of, my understanding is that we had a presentation from our lawyers on the law and how we implement the law. And that we'll have public comments to speak because it's on our agenda, but it is not a discussion. This is something that we're going to listen to, and we're going to take notes, and we'll direct staff. But I was not under the understanding that this is a open discussion on something.
Yeah, I thought we were just gonna take public comments. We're not.
But Bob made it clear to me that we could, if it's an informational item that's agendized, we can discuss it as board members in any manner we wish.
Are we able to ask questions regarding
Yeah,
the
so
law?
just in terms of what this is geared towards, it was meant to be a presentation. However, as board members, you can comment on that, you can ask questions on that, you can talk to each other, you can, so all of that is quite okay, and of course, it's an item on the agenda, so anyone from the community can come up and speak, and make comments and ask questions. It's a little bit based on the president in terms of how the format goes, whether they come up to the podium or whether they're, you ask from, so that's at the purview of the president. But the item itself, you can talk to each other about it, and you can ask questions to the attorney or to staff as well.
But we're not having a dialogue.
Well, we can.
Are we limiting comments to 3 minutes?
Well, I was just going to ask my board to keep in mind that per our public comment policy, the board limits the total time for public input for each item to 20 minutes. And we ask that each person keep their comments limited to 3 minutes. So that is within the statement on our agenda.
I would move that, I'd make a motion that we waive the 20-minute limit in this case, and I would state to my fellow board members that while you may or may not be in favor of immunizing your family members and your children, there are many members of the community who are flat out terrified by the concept.
That's not the issue.
Well, sure it's the issue. That's part of the issue. Part of the issue is
Of the presentation is to give us information.
the point of this agendized item, when I put it on the agenda, was to allow the community to discuss this with us, which was clear to Bob, and Bob made it clear to me that this mechanism allowed for that. And
Let's get started.
A couple things. It allows for comments, and in this case, again, it's at the purview of the president on how the format is. At this point, it's been indicated that the person's going to go up to the podium and speak on that. As far as procedurally, also at the purview of the president, whether that's all the questions up front, all the comments up front, and then board discussion, or whether it's more interactive. So the actual format itself is, again, up to the president. As far as the discussion, it's an agenda, again, agendized item, and people can talk about that, and you as board members can talk and ask questions.
if we, and I don't think this is gonna take 2 hours. I mean, I think we've got 8 or 10 people, and, I just hope we don't relegate this to 20 minutes. It's an extremely important issue to a large number of members of the community.
Okay, let's get started.
We have a half of the motion on the table.
Well, or we could just play it by ear too.
Would anyone like to second the motion to extend this beyond 20 minutes?
I think maybe we need to see how it goes.
Okay.
Let's just,
I'll withdraw.
the respect of
Yeah.
the people.
We've spent 20 minutes discussing this.
Yeah.
Just a point of information. Now, first, Joe, I didn't have a public meeting, so I knew like you're up there.
I gave it to her.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
All right, well, I'll keep it brief, but certainly we did go to Sacramento. We did petition our government for redress of grievances. They ignored us. The legislature is owned by the pharmaceutical industry. And if this isn't the place to have this discussion, sir, I don't know where it is. Because I really think that this is where the enforcement arm of this edict has converged. And you are elected representatives, and you are the ones that are going to determine how to implement this law that has absolutely no teeth in it. This is medical tyranny at its finest. It's a scientific medical tyranny. The industry owns the research apparatus. The pharmaceutical industry owns the media. And I'm hoping that they don't own all of you. So allow these people as much time as they need, because November is next year, and some of you may not be sitting here if you don't listen to your constituents. One of the things I failed to mention at the last meeting I spoke at was that all of the vaccine inserts under Section 13 clearly indicate that none of these vaccines have been tested for impairment of fertility. Thank you.
Next up, Lisa Hayron.
You could call them.
You have a shout.
Yeah, and after that, Shonda Lovato.
Your name.
Lisa Hayward. So we weren't quite prepared today because your agenda date was originally December 15th. So we found out yesterday by looking online that it got changed to the 8th. So we're not quite as prepared as we would have liked to be. But yes, we're concerned parents. We want to be clear, we're not here today to try to end the vaccination program. Of course, our overall goal would be to retain our right to informed consent. Our beliefs and opinions shouldn't be challenged by government and legislator. Doctors and parents are better qualified than politicians to decide medical treatment for our kids, and there's a very fine line when we start eliminating parental rights. We feel it's our duty and yours as the board to assure that all children are entitled to an equal education. California has never restricted the right to a public or private education ever. So what will this law mean? It will mean that certain kids are discriminated against, and we guarantee the fight for parental rights is far from over. Ultimately, I'm sure we can agree that we should be convincing our legislator of different facts, and I think it's been a wake-up call for people on both sides of the vaccine debate. Parents are not only concerned about the safety of vaccines, but the principle behind it. We're having our rights taken away as parents, and I think people have been asleep at the wheel for a long time, and now they realize they need to get involved in electing people who are making decisions for our lives. So today we have some speakers, hopefully, and you'll hear about why those parents choose alternative schedules for their children, the impact that this will have on so many communities, why children with PBEs are not a threat, vaccine injuries, why families don't fully know their rights, and how schools are giving out misinformation at this time because they haven't been given the information from the top down, starting with the state board to the county boards down to the districts and then to the schools, because the schools at this time have absolutely no idea what they're going to do with this. They haven't received any instruction. So this is a poor law. It doesn't protect families. AB 2109 was sufficient, and one of the things we'd like to ask of you today is to reach out to your county boards and state boards and let them know that this law is excessive for the communities, and possibly grant an extension of time for the PBE filings, because we know that the 2 weeks that we have left now, how hard is it going to be for these families to get an appointment with a doctor that probably won't give us one until mid-January if we're lucky. I want to thank you guys for setting the bar and leading. Many districts now have followed because we've informed them that you sent out the mass email and updated your website. So many other districts now have followed suit. Is that my time?
That's 3 minutes. How fast it goes.
Can I direct a few? 5 minutes per speaker, maybe?
I'm in favor of 4 minutes per speaker.
wait until the end to ask our questions.
Darlene Alquaza, you'll be next, and Shanda?
Shonda. Am I okay to start?
Yes.
Okay, hi, my name is Shonda Lovatos, and I'm a mother of 4 children. Additionally, I've been working with special needs children since 1999. I've worked in homes, applying ABA tools, applied behavior analysis. I worked as a therapist, supervisor of behavior programs. Currently, I work as a parent consult. I also do trainings within an adult day center for adults that have disabilities. When I first started working in this community back in 2000, it was 1 in 450 with autistic children. Today, we're at 1 in 48. Now, part of my job is that I go into the houses and I ask the onset of the behavior. That means what happens right before the behavior. When did this all start? When we're talking about behaviors, we're talking about tantrums, self-injurious behaviors. We're talking about physical aggression, verbal aggression, sensory overload. And I ask for the onset. I've had parents come to me, I'm not saying all of them, but listen to my words. Well, he had vaccinations, he got sick, and then he stopped talking. He started hitting his head. He started crying all night. He stopped eating what he used to eat. Now, I'm not saying everybody, but this has been my experience. When you have a pattern occurring of parents that are telling you the same answer, you have to conclude that 1 + 1 is 2. There's something with the vaccines. I'm not saying all of the vaccines are doing this to all of the children. So, I am a person who had febrile seizures. I have ADHD, as well as I get asthma, and I have 4 children. My youngest one started to have asthma. We were back and forth to the hospital. Back and forth, back and forth. I used other alternatives. I stopped going to the doctor. I did homeopathic remedy. We haven't been to the doctor in the emergency room in a year. So I propose this to you guys. I want you guys to go into the homes of these parents that have these children that do these behaviors. You guys have no idea what these parents go through. They change their diets, they stop the vaccinations, they flip things around, they have to get extra help. And in order to get in on behavioral services, you don't even know what the parents have to go through. So, yeah, applying this law to legislators that an outbreak that occurred at Disney, where 80% of them were vaccinated, to impose this upon these families is absurd to me. It's very concerning to me. It bothers me from the bottom of my heart because I went into this job because I love children. And it's very hurtful to see what's going on. So, I present this to you guys. I understand it's a law, but as a community, we need to come together and we need to problem solve this. My 4-year-old will not be going to school because I'm not giving him any more immunizations. We were back and forth in the hospital. He was on inhalers. It was horrible. And we don't know the implication of these vaccines because they haven't done studies. Thank you for your time.
Could I ask the people that are speaking to let us know what schools they're from?
Okay,
That'd be helpful.
next.
The area, Anaheim. Yeah.
Oh, Anna. Darlene?
Hi, good evening. I'm Darlene Alquiza. I'm from the Fullerton School District, Sunset Park Junior High and Sun Hills. That's where I went. And my husband is also from the Fullerton School District. That's where we met, at school. So I want to start by saying that the current exclusion guidelines have proven to be effective, and I can attest to this with my over 10 years experience in a classroom setting. I have a master's degree in human development, specializing in early childhood education, and my bachelor's degree is a Bachelor of Science in Child and Adolescent Development, but also specializing in research methodology. I did speak at the last meeting where we talked about SB 277, and just to remind you about my daughter, who I brought with me, her story. She was born in the 25th percentile, very healthy, and she was thriving until she received her polio at 5 months. She developed rashes, allergies, weight loss, blood, liver, gallbladder issues. She fell off the scale and was labeled failure to thrive. And for 10 months, the doctors could only tell me I don't know why. So this is very concerning to me because they're telling me I don't know why, but I don't feel comfortable giving you a medical exemption because it doesn't meet the CDC guidelines for granting medical exemptions, which I just want to make a note. When it was said that the